want you to listen to me good on this. I hear the leader of the opposition, Golden, talking about rescuing Jamaica. He is going to rescue Jamaica. And you know, I have to shake my head, because to me it is the most barefaced hypocrisy I have ever heard being meted out on the ears, the eyes, and the visuals of the Jamaican people. He also speaks about this ethical posture and positioning as if he's some paragon of virtue and ethics. And I want Jamaicans to be wary of those who come in the name of morals and ethics, and who come to rescue when their track record speaks directly opposite to what now they are promising to do. The reality is that if anybody has rescued Jamaicans and more Jamaicans than any other time, it is this Jamaica Labour Party government under Andrew Holness. We reduce poverty, we impose no new taxes, we bring down crime, we restore more health centers, we add more doctors and nurses, we provide more medication under the National Health Fund than any time before under any other government, certainly better than under any PNP administration.
Let me recognize and welcome our Prime Minister, Honorable Andrew Holness, in Norwood this evening, of course, with him, the Mayor, and the executive leadership of Jamaica. Especially recognize a number of people I've seen. Pastor Bartudo spoke. I know Sidney said we have Mr. Reagan, but I mentioned those names because this is the part of the culmination of a long journey. I recall we have been working together in the scenes. They have been occupying the property for more than 20 years, Prime Minister. And while at some stage we did give up, the government provided what is called a certificate of possession for the lost right to private property. The certificate of possession will have the legal value that the Jamaican title of the property. It's registered title in Jamaica is called a special system that they use. It's a very valuable piece of document. In fact, more valuable than several other countries use. Many of us have present in North America. It's a special process that we award to Jamaica. Title. Called the torrent system. That's what for you. And part of it that is insured by government. When we go wrong, it's insured by government. And it's one of the few things that Canada creates and title system. And we recall start discussion here many years back. You were here before until I came in and we made a little building across there. I said Pastor Barrett was there and Miss Hedges veranda. I think this is the third typing ceremony, but others smaller. So it's good to see this evening 70 plus titles, president titles, indicate that more and more families are now seeking to acquire properties. The cost is still in reasonable here. Certainly nobody would want to offer you that kind of money for your property now. And we have done some good work to bring the infrastructure to main roads, and more is being done. The water remains something new. Parents is here, embarrassment and headache. I've invited you all to come and see till we're doing something new. Parents is here, well, we did the Nissan section of the Northwestern Water Resilience Project, which is near $200 billion US. It's a bigger figure than Jamaica, and they are doing the water line from Fallon. We've been doing the communities that lead off the water line. That water line reflects some of the failure of the water comes in over the years, because it's old and it's falling apart. When that goes on, of course, we don't get any water at all in Norwood or any part of the constituency and hills and contents. So they'll be fixing that line to take some time, but you'll see a gentleman who did the piece, you couldn't get mortgages, sometimes it's partner, and you buy your building block a little bit at a time, and the family, and sometimes friend, and others come together and put in one wall into the next and the next. Sometimes you ask for help here, you get a little work, you go there and build your home. And they're nice homes. Certainly Sometimes when anybody comes through Norwood and they see it, and I say informal. I use the term informal, never said squatters from day one, but they tell me where do they get all that money from. The fact is that it was hard work and discipline, where I'm aware the able to buy 100 back now, put it down, another 100 next until you can buy a few back from the store, and it stays at your gate until you got to what is a fine home, is your palace, and you have to commend the citizens here. What we are hoping to do, I don't know much longer the parents will speak, I will hear, walking here again still. What this does for you is that when you have your title, all that effort you put in, all that sweat, equity as we used to talk about in the Providence Society, can be realized. Because once you have the road, light is in place, and we have to do some improvement, and that have no infrastructure they want to. Well, it's informal, I can't pay anything for it. You can't pay for the value of it for living here. Now that you have infrastructure and you're getting registered title, the value of a house can be reflected. It is, as some would say, the same kind of value of the garden. Your location is excellent. You're near to the airport, you're near the highway, and you have a highway down the road, and all of that in place. You are a resident of the community, and we are keeping the peace. We have issues, discuss them, but I think last year we celebrated 2 years ago the single murder in Norwood, and we have a police officers here, commanded Mr. Superintendent Mr. Aaron Summers. He's a strong but professional police officer. I have not heard of any serious complaints about any police abuse or arrogance to this law-abiding citizen of Norwood in many ways. I managed to operate with good community relations, and we have not had any homicide murders for a long time. We keep it that way, and I said we will certainly be able to realize the value of the FTF here. And I can't really remind in terms of we used to meet here in small groups. Every Sunday evening once a month, Mr. Barrett at Nesbury Tree. Right? And on this Headley veranda, another Sunday evening. And Mr. Barrett, let me go. Let me go power supply. We'll meet early enough, but let me go tell the plant. We said we go to the Tilly lab, our home sweet home now, and we discussed this issue, the challenge you face until we got some power supply, and eventually trying to get the infrastructure in place, which included water, which will never come up and connected, and we hope to do that now. But again, let me say I express my own personal appreciation for the effort of the audience to get to registered titles. Those available, I have to come into cities who have been patient, but have also seen enough to extend and they're saving and acquire their property. They pay a price for it, but your value is now there, and we expect to proceed with even more. And now they said, well, they identified what is one of Montego Bay's primary related community. And primarily, when I do scholarship at tertiary college, I say, comes down here, if I allow them, everybody gets, now would absorb all the funding to go to college. There are ambitious, honest, hard-working people here, and productive Jamaicans. We'll be building pretty near to you, beside the highway coming, we intend to put a STEM school near here, which means the bright students who used to send off to Monroe and to Campion elsewhere will have a school better than yours right here, that now students can go to the STEM school. I'm looking if we can get a primary, but so far said we have not yet, because but you have a number of schools to get here, but kids are bright, and the STEM school will be in particular benefited. But again, it's not by the practice here. It's part of one of the finest residents of the community in and around Montego Bay, some of the most productive, hard-working, capable Jamaicans in this community. Again, let me thank the audience and your behalf, Chairman and Executive Commander, and our Prime Minister for coming this evening to deliver again to our citizens of Norwood, my friends here in Norwood, our registered title, their piece of paper, land paper that they can call their own, keep on their own, and use as one of their major assets in the development and in their own personal development. Again, thank you and welcome.
Pastor Paul Barrett, and thank him for his prayers, kind wishes for me and my family and government. Allow me to acknowledge your Member of Parliament, my Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honourable Holness HAJ. With us is our Mayor, Mr. Norman Brown. You know him very well as well, the Chairman of the HAJ, and the Director of the HAJ, Doreen Prendergast, someone who is very much invested in seeing to it that you get your titles and that your community is regularized. She has been working in this area for a long time, since Minister Chang was Minister of Housing, and that was some time ago. It is truly a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Your community is a case study of a community that is transitioning from informality to formality. You are the epitome of ambition, hard work, and the drive to uplift yourself. The Norwood community has done so well. There's been significant infrastructural investment in your community to put in roads, sidewalks, curbs, to make provision for electrification, to do some amount of regularization. The big problem you have now is water. There have been several government interventions, as I've mentioned, to put in the infrastructure. I know that pipes have been laid in some of the roads that have been constructed, but I am told that the pipes are not connected. Some of these pipes are laid maybe 20 years ago. And so when I was doing my preparations to address you, that was one of the things that was flagged. And so in discussion with your Member of Parliament, last night actually, we decided that we would mobilize the NWC to come and take a look here to see exactly what the issues are, to make the necessary connections, and to ensure that you have water. I gather that one of the blocks have had no water for an extended period of time. And that cannot continue, and it must be addressed, and I intend to ensure that the NWC is here in short order to look at the problem and bring a solution to the problem. But we're here today to discuss the handing over of 70 titles to persons who have paid off for their property. Some of you have paid off for a long time ago, and we are now at the point where we can hand them over. Now, the titling process, surveyed, you have to sometimes get an attorney to pursue some of the issues. Sometimes the boundaries come into conflict and they have to be resolved. And all of this comes at a cost. So even if you have paid off for your property, meaning that the land that you're on, you have paid for the cost of it, sometimes people don't even bother to go and get the title. They hold on to the receipts and they say, at some point in time, when I have the money, I will go and try to get my title. And this, kind of informal way of addressing titles means that you could have generations living on the land and there is no title. We have seen situations where other people have come and found ways of getting title for the land that you have been living on. We have seen situations where people just turn up and say, this was, my land, see, I have a letter of possession that was given to me, and, I don't know how you get on this land. So it's very important that you secure your land through a titling process. And what the government has done to facilitate this is that we have amended the various legislation to put in place something called systematic registration of titling. And what that has done is to accelerate titling. So we are not waiting on persons to come to get their titles. What we have done is to declare an area for systematic titling. And we pay for a land surveyor, do all the surveys, and we put in place an adjudication committee that should there become any disputes between neighbors and property owners, there is a committee that is comprised of a justice of the peace, prominent persons in the community who can draw very easily on the history of the community to make a determination as to where the boundaries fall. And it has worked very well. Since April 2021, over 12,500 titles have been issued. And we have done that in a few parishes in St. Elizabeth and St. Catherine. And very soon, we intend to scale that up to make it an island-wide endeavor where we will be designating areas and having those titles be prepared and handed over instead of waiting for persons to come and try to get titles for their land. Now, just to make a comparison, in terms of what is called the ad hoc title, meaning persons going to the NLA to get titles based upon their own initiative, over that same period of time, from April 2021 to now, only 7,000 titles essentially would have been issued on the ad hoc process, where someone would say, you know what, I am going to pursue getting my title registered. Compared to almost doubling that under the systematic, where when we go and process the titles. Now, under that, when we do the systematic registration, we help the landowner by paying for the survey and the legal fees. And at some point, of course, it's a loan, it's not a gift that the beneficiaries of that facilitation would repay. Now, the HAJ has several titles in its vault. I don't know where your vault is, but I know you have thousands of titles in your vault. Some of those titles can't be issued because that is 150,000 or less, so that people can get their titles now for not having to be deprived of their title because there's a small balance owed. And so in short order, we will be notifying those persons who qualify that they can get their titles. Of course, at my last event, where I was handing over some titles in a place called Maysbury Grove, I pointed out, or it was pointed out to me, that it was not fair for someone who has been paying, right? That they are going to get, someone who, or rather someone who has not been paid, who paid nothing at all on their title. Because some people bought the land 30, 40 years ago when it was being sold for $150,000. And they paid nothing on it. And someone who has been working hard and making their payment and only owe 40,000 of the 150,000, right? They get the same benefit, the same amount is written off. And I think there's a kind of unfairness there. So what we are eventually, I think, Chairman, deciding to do is that we're going to definitely write off those persons who have paid or have demonstrated that they're paying, but they still have that amount of less than 150,000. We will write that off. But those who haven't paid anything, we're going to have to have a discussion with you. Yes, we have to have a discussion with you. You have to come in and bring in something. I think that is fair. You don't think so? I think that is fair. So we're going to work out the system to ensure that there is fairness both ways. That people who work and pay and struggle, right, they should get the write-off. But those who haven't done anything, we have to have a conversation with about what we can get from you to show your interest and equity in the land. But there's another reason why the titles that are held by the HAJ have not been delivered to the beneficiaries and the owners. The government, under Operation Pride, would have pledged some of these titles, used them as collateral for a loan from the NHD to complete some other Operation Pride schemes. One of them come to mind readily is a development in Boscobel. And the HAJ essentially was saddled with a $3.49 billion loan, of which titles, some of your titles, would have been used as collateral. So on the title there would have been the endorsement of a loan from the NHD to the HAJ for which your title was pledged. And so the government couldn't hand over the title to you. Now, what we have done since 2016, we have paid down that loan. We have paid about $2.6 billion back to the NHD, and what that has done is to free up titles, and that is why you see us now being able to deliver titles, because the lien that was on some of those titles would have been taken off because we have paid down that loan. You see the difference between this administration and other administrations? We run the country well, so that we don't have to go and borrow to do the development, which then deprives you of some of the benefits that you should get. So now we're in a position where not only can we give you the titles for small balances owed, write those off, but whatever lien were on the titles before, we can remove those liens because we have paid down the loan that the previous government had taken out on your title. And so today, yes, today is the result. Right now, I know a lot of people, when they get their title, they put it in a little Ziploc bag and they put it in a folder, and some people put it, you know, under their mattress. Some people have secret hiding place. Some people lock it up in their safe. You know, keep it in a safe place, and that you treat it with care, because it is indeed an important document. And we know in today's world that there are people who will try to copy the title, duplicate it, fraudulently reproduce your title. So you have to be very careful in protecting your title. I should say, however, that the NLA is far advanced in moving towards digital, also going to be moving towards now having your digital title, that the necessary security, cyber security will be around it so that it can't be duplicated and misused. So ladies and gentlemen of Norwood, let me congratulate those of you who have worked very hard, paid off for your lands, and you are now officially ready to receive your title. And that, I am certain, will advance your own development, that of your household and your family. And I must commend you that for 2 years, no murders in a community that was once considered an area plagued with murders. I offer you to consider this. In 2016, 2017 thereabouts, we estimated that there were about 20 communities that were essentially in an internecine war, gang wars, where murders were increasing each year on year. I ask you to think of one community now where this is the case. Think carefully. So from 2017, 2018, 2019, you had communities in Westmoreland, right here in St. James, in Kingston and St. Andrew. And we could name them. I don't want to name any communities to put any stereotype on them or stigma. But you could easily name them. Communities in which the murders are rising year on year, and there's an internecine gang war going on. But think about it and tell me the community now. We put in place zones of special operations that intervene in the situation in Westmoreland. So we have a zone of special operation in Westmoreland. Look at Westmoreland today. Right here in St. James, we have 2 zones of special operations, Mount Salem and here. Look at the area now. In Kingston, we have
Brother. Henry Malcolm, Lot 6.
what we doing this is brother.
Jocelyn and Dejanay Dobson. Javoy Richardson. Dobson. O'Neill Elson. O'Neill Elson. Tashari Pugh. Tashari Pugh. Ivette Green. Rosemary Edmondson. Derica Henry. Jamar Mason.